to encounter the forces is something that you can start to help people interpret as an analyst. Besides profile, purpose, function, you can also take a look at how they're designed to interpret non-physical. And that's what the personality, consciousness, color, motivation, especially transference, can show us. Transference, again, meaning it's going to go to the harmonic of whatever that person's color is. And most people are not self, so they are going to get transferred to the color that is across the way, or the harmonic that is not there. They're correct in way of interpreting the non-physical. So, little story. When I was a kid, I remember I must have been maybe 9, and my paddling coach, he died. And I went out on the boat with my mother, and I remember her crying. In Hawaii, you throw leis, flower leis, into the water, like a necklace, but made out of flowers. And I remember sitting in that boat, watching my mother cry, and because we were all part of the paddling canoe club, and I started paddling at a really young age, and he died, and I remember sitting there and just feeling this ocean of sadness, and it really bothered me. It disturbed me quite a lot. And the next time there was a death, I did not go. And that set up for the rest of my life. I did not go to any other deaths beyond that. But I remember the second time somebody died, and I'm sitting at home alone, and I can feel the energy outside of me. I can feel the non-physical, the people that had died. And in Hawaii, there are these things called night marchers. Lots of stories about people who die. And being able to feel ghosts, being able to tap into things that I can feel that are not there, has been something between me and another, or between me and non-physical, has been something that as a child you learn to shut down, because people, they make fun of you, or they don't really take you seriously when you talk about things that you cannot see for the most part. So when you come to this area of the knowledge and you start to witness and watch how people are obsessed with aliens, one of the things that I noticed as I was growing up, really interested in aliens. I went to one of those festivals, and I wanted to learn from Bashar. He was talking, so Bashar is a channeler, and he channels aliens. And I wanted to know, when are the aliens going to come? When are we going to meet them? And he gave me a date, and I'm all satisfied. Oh, that's a date, okay. And yeah, aliens are quote unquote here. There's a lot of disclosure. But that obsession, I'm here to see ghosts, an obsession with aliens, if I'd have known that that was something that is a sign of me in transference, I could have been aware. But of course, wasn't aware. And this is the thing that you can, if it's correct for you, help your clients interpret and be aware of, as far as what is the transference, what is the thing that is out of integrity, and just a signpost of awareness to remind us to come back to correctness. And that's what I want for you in these next 3 sessions as we go through these materials. Are those people designed to see aliens or angels? Are they designed to see demons or entities, ghosts or gods? You'll find in the transference what happens is that people become obsessed, and that's where the problem lies. Because if they are correctly designed to attune to the non-physical as ghosts, and those, talking to the dead, and they're obsessed with aliens, it becomes something that can potentially pull them off track, because the non-differentiated human being would like to be a part of something greater. Oftentimes they want to be special, unique, and when they think they're talking to aliens or gods or entities or angels or demons or ghosts, when it's not in alignment for them to do so, and they make that other, whatever it is that's outside of themselves, their own authority, angels, whatever demon or daemon, the ghosts, the Christmas past, or people who have died, their karmic ancestors, whatever the case may be, the prophets, the entities, the aliens. If you make anything outside of yourself your authority, then you're lost. And that's the signpost of the transference. In this course, in this class, Ra talks mostly about the transference and what it shows up like in not self. And so the signpost is, I'm just repeating this so you can really grasp this. The signpost is the color harmonic, whatever their personality color is, the harmonic, that being the thing that they give their authority to. And so that's the most important thing to remind us of. So the most important thing from this presentation that I have gleaned is that according to Ra's best hypothesis, because this is what he thinks that all crystals, the bundle crystals that people are talking to, are not specific to aliens, entities, gods, ghosts, demons, or angels, but that it is our filter of the consciousness data stream and our interpretation of such crystals that projects or expects or attunes to whatever it is in that crystal bundle that is resonating on a frequency, because it's all it is. We're all resonating on certain frequencies. Can we tap into that aspect of the crystal bundle that is speaking to us? Most of the time, these crystal bundles, and we'll talk more about them next week, particularly the rogue crystal bundles, not the major crystals, as we're going to go into in a moment. Most of them are attaching onto people who are not self, most people being not self, and they're attempting to influence such a being who is open to whatever that energetic is, subject to, yes, you be my authority. Angel, please protect me. Putting the power outside of themselves. And so that's usually the interpretation that you're going to hear from people when they're talking about whatever it is, angels, demons, ghosts, gods, entities, and aliens. So at the end of this class, we'll take a break from the lecture and see what your personal encounters or experiences, like I just mentioned as an example. I have others if there needs to be more example of communing with ghosts and I see dead people. I don't see them, I just feel them. I'm a feeling cognition, so that's how I interpret. Okay, so in order to understand the context here, just moving some things out of the way, the nature of crystal bundles, we're talking again now, crystals of consciousness, because the design crystal lives in the core of the earth. The personality crystals, if we were to fly up onto the moon and look down from the moon onto the planet Earth, this is somewhat what it would look like. The earth would be shrouded by all of these crystal bundles. So it's covered in detail in Rave, Cosmology, Band 2, where we talk about the most detailed information of the formations of the crystals of consciousness and the crystal bundles. So this is more like a teaser, an intro to crystal bundle information. So we look at all these crystals that are shrouding the earth, showing the earth so we can see these different fundamental personality crystals that are operating within the atmosphere around the planet. And if you recall, we have these major, we could call them gods, the 16 original crystal bundles that is examined in the 16 faces of the Godhead. Ra talks about it in quarter by quarter, that program, if it's something that you're really interested in. Basically, we're looking at every 4 hexagrams around the wheel. Those are the 16 faces of the Godhead. So when you look at where your personality consciousness was born, your imprint, I happen to be in Kali, that place in space is not your authority, and yet it is part of the life work purpose fulfillment. And so when you're living out the dead myth of your Godhead, Kali the destroyer, rather than being your unique sovereign self or honoring the integrity of your strategy, being your own authority, it's a very different life that you live. Before human design, Kali the destroyer was part of my life as far as, doing this. This was no apologies. Definitely destroying as Kali rode me. And yet there are many faces of Kali. She can be the great nourisher, not just the destroyer. So basically, you're looking at every 4 hexagrams, you have a Godhead. You have these crystal bundles. And then that's personality. Inside the earth, you have the design crystal bundle, which is one single formation. One single formation within the core of the earth, within the mantle of the earth. And this is where all of the form principle, not just human, but all of the forms on this planet emerge from. So all of the form principle within the core of the planet. We know the design crystal sits in the ajna, the personality crystal, on top of the head, right underneath the scalp, not fully embodied. You can see that the head center is pointed outside of the body graph. And then we have our magnetic monopole, the monopole that sits in gate 2, that holds us together, designed to personality, together in the illusion of our separateness from the totality, the illusion of being separate from the totality of existence. And at the point of biological death, what happens is that the design crystal drops into, reunite with the magnetic monopole, and exits out of the body. So they link up, and the design crystal is pulled down by the magnetic monopole back into the earth. So through that central mutative channel, right out of gate 60, the two of them literally leave the body. Talk about abandonment issues for the personality crystal. Wait, what? Where'd my body go? They go straight down the center through the 60. There's this invisible doorway. And in a sense, the design crystal and the magnetic monopole, they leave that personality and that form as well, because the form is done now. And so the personality is left to its bardo process. In leaving the form with that personality crystal being abandoned, it literally has to just wait there. It can't do anything else other than wait. Abandoned because this design crystal and the magnetic monopole, when you were, what's the word, you guys? I'm sorry. When you are impregnated, conceived, there we go, the conceived. When you're conceived, the design crystal and the magnetic monopole, they separate and they begin to build the body. So they have a really deep connection together. They have this, like a hand in a glove, the connection together. And when they are separate, there's this great tension that happens. They really want to be together. Ra's joke was, you want unconditional love? Die, you get it immediately. That feeling of the tension, like longing for home, yearning to go back home, that's the sensation of the design crystal and the magnetic monopole separate for this life. Separated in order to build the body, in order to give the personality a ride of its life. So when they abandon the personality crystal sitting there just waiting, what happens is they wait for, they as in us personalities that have the body dead and gone, done. What happens with this life? What happens is there's a resonance principle, and it sounds like a taxi ride, but it's not. The moment from the moment of death up to 72 hours, there's this bardo stage, and sometime within that time frame, the personality crystal will be picked up, resonance principle, by its bundle, the one that it belongs to. So I would be going back to Kali, as far as where I belong, if I get my bardo. My husband and I joke that we are going to build air-conditioned coffins, because it's quite hot here, and depending on when we die, we wouldn't want that body just sitting around for a while. Being able to have air-conditioned coffins might be quite nice, but it's basically frequency and magnetism as far as whether or not when that personality crystal is going to get picked up. And more of this will be found in the Bardo, Death, Dying, and Bardo semester. But basically, this is about the Rave Book of the Dead that is taught there. And the most important thing that we as living creatures can do for our dead is to respect and protect their Bardo, their body being protected for up to 3 days is how long it takes, so the 3 full days, so that it allows them to return to source, that crystal bundle that they are a part of and from. And that personality crystal needs to be able to go through its natural bardo. Bardo being the decomposition of the brain, quite literally, when the brain starts to decompose. And the personality can access certain aspects of their capacity of the brain, even though the brain has, or the body has died, there's still some electrical processes, something that is somewhat functional for over 72 hours. And so the personality crystal still needs that body. It's still using this vehicle. Hey, don't take my organs. I'm still using them. You know, please don't take my brain. Not that we do brain transplants, but what if they're going to get some kind of, they gave their body up to research and science, and some hopped up scientist is like, ooh, we get to dissect a fresh brain, yay! But the personality crystal is still using it. Oh, unfortunately, we don't know such things, generally speaking. So the vehicle needs to be untouched. It needs to be intact. It needs to be not underground for those full 72 hours in order for the personality crystal to be using the brain and for it to be picked up by its crystal bundle, according to Ra, for its bardo experience to be fulfilled and intact. So it's only through the frequency where it can be processed and recognized and returned back to its crystal bundle, according to how this works. Okay, so we had to do that in order to understand rogue crystal bundles, which we can talk more about next week. But just to get this conceptually, that what's at work with all of these personality crystals that are, let's say, did not get their bardo stage. They were not allowed to have their bardo process. What happens is, because of cremation, or that's burning the body, or let's bury them immediately because of the heat of wherever, or the decay, or the smell, or the disease, because particularly when people get afraid of what carriers of disease, think the Black Plague and such. If they were interred or buried immediately after death, mass graves, just pile them all up in there without that 3-day wait and that mourning process, then these are the personality crystals that never get the opportunity to return to their source crystal bundle. They never get their bardo experience, so they never have that resonance frequency, so they're loose. My mind said loose cannon, maybe. They're in the environment and they cling together through frequency. And that's what creates rogue crystal bundles, because of the damage being done to the body, autopsies, donation of the kidneys, the liver, the spleen, whatever it is, where these personality crystals are now loose and they start to aggregate, they start to collect, they start to bond. There's a lot of that all over this world, and they're so tiny. I read recently it was 5 neutrino thick, a personality crystal. So basically what you have with them not returned to the bundle is that sooner or later they're going to connect up with other personality crystals that also have not returned to the bundle. And then you have this collective of crystals. Now, if we compare the main personality crystal bundles, the main 16 up there, you're talking hundreds of millions of crystals of consciousness. And that's a very different size than these who are rogue bundles, meaning they're not part of the main crystal bundle. They're just aggregating, they're collecting all over the planet, something like 10,000 to 2 million different personality crystals that never got their bardo over the thousands of years that this planet has been having people incarnate and decarnate. So then you have still impressive numbers, but not the kind of size of the main personality crystal bundles that are up there, the gods, if you will. So there are these people wandering the planet still. They're not people because they're not incarnate, but the personalities that are wandering the planet, these bundles, rogue bundles, developing in strength for thousands of years, thousands and thousands of years. And that we can interpret, especially those of us who are very sensitive to interpret these energies as angels, demons, ghosts, gods, entities, or aliens. And remember, it's not that they are angels or demons or ghosts or gods or entities or aliens necessarily. It's that the personality that is incarnate, us, you, me, we, all of us, we are going to interpret those crystals of consciousness in a certain way.